Oh, well, listen,
Yeah.
I'm really pleased that you've brought her with you
Good.
today. She's gorgeous. Now, listen, you two are very much into puppets, aren't
Yes,
you?
I'd say so.
I mean, that
Pretty
is your
much.
job. What a
Yeah.
brilliant job. When you meet people, what do you do for a living? I make puppets.
Yeah,
It's pretty
you
cool.
usually get a bit of a dodgy look, but then once you explain you kind of, the projects that we've been involved in.
Some
and the
big
exciting-
projects.
Yeah, the exciting
But
things
also,
that we've done.
Yeah, and having a job that you love and doing something different is
We're
really
very
great.
lucky.
It's a blessing, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Talk us through some of the big projects that you have been involved with.
Well, there's all sorts of big films that have been produced and made in this country.
Yeah, we've been lucky enough to work on the Star Wars kind of franchise. I've done the last 3, I think.
Yeah.
Becky worked on The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
But we've
Done
been...
like Beauty and the Beast and Ex Machina and Assassin's Creed. I got to do Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the Tim Burton one, which was my
Amazing.
first job in the film industry.
That was your first job.
Well-
I love that. My first job in
I
film
know.
was Tim Burton's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Well-
It's not a bad start, that, is it?
No, I was incredibly lucky. I did work experience on Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which was a Henson film in the UK, and in my final year at university, and I was there for 4 weeks during my Easter holidays, and the people that I met on that job were wanted to get me back in again, so they phoned me up while I was doing the last bit of my degree and asked me to go and work on Charlie and the Chocolate Factory,
And
which
you-
is
You
amazing.
couldn't believe
Yeah.
your luck.
And you've still been working with some of those
Yeah,
today, aren't you?
I still work with those guys today.
Yeah.
They're lovely bunch. It's the people that we work with are what make our job so much fun. Really,
Yeah.
it's a real fabulous.
It's a big old
bunch of
family,
people.
isn't it?
It must be great. And am I right in saying it was an ogre puppet that actually brought the two of you together in the
Yes,
first
it's
place?
quite
You're quite right.
the romance. Yeah, so we were.
Our eyes met over an
Well,
ogre.
we were literally working. We were facing each other for a good couple of months, weren't we? Working
Yeah.
on this puppet together.
Yeah,
It was an 8-foot ogre for an opera
yeah. It was
in New York.
I think El Gato de Bootas or something,
Yep,
which is basically
well done.
Puss in Boots,
Yeah.
for a New York opera company, and it won New York Times' Puppet of the Year. But we were working on that for quite a few months, and
Solidly.
yeah, and then we just went on, did other jobs, and we got. Well,
Yeah.
that was 8 years ago, and we got married this summer.
Yeah.
Ah,
The Stitches and Glue romance.
it's a gorgeous story. I just love the fact as well that there is a Puppet of the Year award.
Oh, I know,
mean,
yeah.
Who
Yeah.
knew that was even a thing?
I think there should be more awards for puppets.
I
to be honest.
agree.
So.
I agree.
Yeah.
The West End is missing out.
Yeah, I think it should be a new category.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's start that
Yeah.
campaign
I
here.
think
Start
so,
at the
it's a good
Golden
idea.
Globes.
Yeah.
How did you get into it then? I mean, at what point did you think, right, this is what I want to do as a career? I want to make puppets for a living.
You know what? I actually, looking back, it's something that I've been doing since childhood. I used
Oh,
to make
really?
things with my nan, and then through doing a university course, and I was lucky to have tutors that kind of would just encourage me to do what I enjoyed to do, and I just started making more puppets. I did an illustration degree, but everything kind of lent towards a three-dimensional kind of avenue. And then I just started making puppets for animation and made my own short films. And Becky did a degree at...
Yeah, I went to the London College of Fashion, which is called something else now, and I did a degree called Technical Effects Performing Arts. And I mean, like my dad says that I got a degree in gluing, which is very true.
Degree in gluing.
And I genuinely never thought in a million years I didn't actually know that what we did was a job when I was younger, and I didn't think that I was going to get anything out of my degree. I just enjoyed it. But then when, like I said, I did this work experience, it just opened up a whole new world to me, and amazing opportunities. And
See, it's interesting, isn't it? As you said yourself, you didn't realise it was even a job when you were younger. I really think even more so nowadays. You know, there are probably jobs that are going to be around that probably don't exist at the moment.
Yeah, you're right.
But that's what's so inspiring, because there will be, people who aren't quite sure what to do with their lives, both young and old.
Yeah.
And that's what's so nice to actually know that you can make a living out of doing something you love.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because like at school, I managed to get through my GCSEs, but I never knew what I could be any good at. And I think my careers advisor suggested that I was an air traffic controller, which could possibly have been the
quite
most
random.
dangerous thing in the
I'm not
world. I mean,
sure
it would
that
have been a disaster. But
They told me I should have been a nursery nurse. You'd pity those children.
Oh, wow.
Oh, listen, I'm literally the least patient person in the world. It would have been awful for everyone concerned.
Oh.
But I mean, like, my art teacher was massively unenthusiastic to my skill at any, because I can't draw, but it doesn't matter. I can make stuff differently. And I think as a kid, if someone had said, because we didn't have the internet then either, it was like you couldn't figure out what you could be doing in a creative industry, because there just wasn't that information, especially in Gloucestershire, in the middle of nowhere.
I think that's changed now, though.
Yeah,
I think people are a lot more aware of
the possibilities. So how does it work if you're making a puppet for a big film? Like take the Star Wars, phenomenon. I mean, it's just massive. I mean, do they send you a brief? Do they say, right, we want the puppet to look like this? I mean, how much creative control do you have?
Well, there's lots of people involved. There's all kinds of different makers.
Yeah.
There's you've got sculptors, you've got mold makers, you've got the actual designer, and then you have the costume designer as well. So it's all a massive collaboration. That everyone oversees it, and
I think that the bigger the job that you're involved in, the less creative input you're allowed, because there are all these other people who are getting paid to do their jobs. Yeah. So when we get our smaller jobs that come to us, it's really nice because we get to design them, and there are less people involved, but they all start with a design, which is either done by a creative person higher up the food chain or us on our smaller jobs. Yeah. Paul does some beautiful design work.
What's been your favourite? I mean, this is a hard thing to choose, I'm sure, but what's been your best job, like the one you've enjoyed the most? Is there a particular puppet that's your favourite?
We were lucky enough to, for me, last year, we were pretty much on the dream job, really. Yeah. Which so we worked on Dark Crystal. We can't actually say much more about it because we've double checked.
Sadly, NDAs.
But I think for me and Becky, it was
an amazing
incredible experience,
wasn't it?
Yeah,
we got to be involved in some incredible things.
Oh. And that's out this year at some point. Yeah, but unfortunately we can't really.
What if I tickle you?
About it. No, I'm afraid that's not going to work.
So you have to sign these non-disclosure agreements then
on all
top secret.
On lots of big jobs they have to do that. We're doing something at the moment which is with
Yeah, Wild Brain, which is a production company, and they do lots of online kind of content for children. So we're designing a couple of characters for that. Yeah, we've also been working with the City Theatre in Helsinki, developing some bits for their new show, Little Mermaid, Disney's Little Mermaid.
That's opening in August, isn't it?
Yeah,
which is going to be.
So that's rather exciting as well.
Huge, spectacular.
Oh, yeah. So do you get to make like a puppet Sebastian?
Again, we can't really go into too much detail about that. But we're involved in some form.
Oh, that is fun.
Yeah.
And do you always work together, the two of you?
Predominantly nowadays,
Most of the time. Sometimes people will, because so as well as, having Stitches and Glue, we do also work as individual freelancers as well. So sometimes, like, for example, when I worked on the Assassin's Creed job, that was just me, and I was working more in a costume prop capacity. Right. And then when Paul's done the last few Star Wars, I haven't been on those, so it's been as an individual.
Yeah, which has been great, because then we get to work with other individuals, other talented folk, and we bring all of that kind of stuff that we've learnt off of those guys into our own work. Yeah. So it's great that we have the options to do that.
Yeah, and also gives you a break from each other. It might be a bit intense. No. I mean, I'm sure you get on beautifully, but I mean, 24/7 all of the time, really.
We love each other's company.
Do you ever fall out, though?
Never.
Never.
We might have creative differences.
You signed one of those NDAs over that, isn't it? But when you say creative differences, in all seriousness, if you were working on a puppet together and you both had quite different visions for that, who would have the upper hand? Who has the final say?
So quite often what happens is that Paul's very good at some bits and I'm very good at some bits. So between us, we'll always find the right way to get to the final thing.
You have the final say.
We have slightly different skill sets, and I think that's what works so well.
I think if I knew that Paul knew better than me on a certain thing, I'd be like...
I was going to say, I think we're all clear that Becky has the final say on how the puppet eventually looks. But yeah, you keep pretending to yourself, Paul.
All right.
That it's 50-50. It's fine. Wow, what would be then? I mean, it sounds like you've already had pretty much your dream jobs, but is there one particular thing that you would love to do above all else that hasn't been offered to you yet?
Oh wow.
I'd love for us to do our own show, or own some kind of form of TV show or something. But hopefully that'll be something that we can do over the next couple of years. You know, that because we've done a lot of kind of short stories. We've worked together. We did a kind of art toy. It's kind of soft sculptures that we used to make a few years ago, little monster things, and we'd write stories for those. And it's those guys came from like a monster rescue centre.
They were monsters that needed rehoming.
Yeah, so we used to write little individual stories for those characters. So I don't know, something that we could have total creative control over. So many ideas.
We shoot it in our back garden, and
it would be brilliant. Yeah. I've got this vision of your house just being stuffed full of puppets.
You know what? They're not allowed in the house. They're not allowed in the house.
No, not allowed the puppets.
No, that's true.
Really?
Yeah. We don't have much of our work in the house at all, do we?
No, it's all in. It's
in the workshop.
The studio's packed with bits of interesting things, but the house
not so much.
It's probably just as well. It could be a bit freaky, couldn't it? Middle of the night, bumping into a puppet on the way to the loo.
Lots of other art from other art.
We buy lots of other people's arts. But
when you make a puppet for a big film, though, do you get to keep the puppet or not?
No way.
Now that must be hard. If you've worked months on something, you're going to hand it over.
Well, they own it. That's it. It's sort of it is quite hard though. You poured all this love and labour into something, and then
they just take it off you.
Yeah.
Get over it.
If people want to find out more about what you do, is there a website they can take a look at?
Yes, www.stitchingglue.com. So it's all on there. Our past and present work. Loads of
lots of images. It's nice.
Oh, well, listen, it's been lovely meeting you both, and Ivy.
Oh, yeah, she's been so quiet. She's lying down.
And it just goes to show a degree in gluing. Look, I can lead to.
Thank you very much. It was lovely meeting you.
Paul Vincent and Becky Johnson from Stitches and Glue, based in Surrey.
Wake up to breakfast with Neil Pringle.
Tomorrow.